All right, well, welcome back to the next episode of the Red and White Podcast. We are joined by a special guest tonight for kind of a look at our new offensive coordinator. So we've got Drew Vachal. Did I say Vachal right?
Yeah, you got it right.
Okay. He's the founder and creator of Bronco Nation News, and he's going to try and give us a little insight into a guy that is really only 6 years removed from being a high school offensive coordinator, and now he's in the ACC.
I mean, that's pretty fantastic. It's a pretty quick rise there.
It's a good trajectory.
Yeah. For those who haven't seen Drew's site, I highly recommend it. Bronco Nation News. They do a very good job breaking down a lot of the plays, a lot of the just football in general. I mean, I was really impressed. I was reading the posts and watching the videos today, so this probably be an easy question to start for you. What was the general opinion of Drinkwitz when he was hired?
Yeah, to start out, I mean, like you guys said, being 6 years removed from being a high school offensive coordinator, it's quite the rise to where he's at right now. I hope my life could move that fast like that, and hopefully get a paycheck like his soon. But I doubt that's going to happen. But anyways, when people first off, Mike Sanford was the offensive coordinator last season, not this past season, but the season before. And he took over the Notre Dame offensive coordinator position. And he was a really hot commodity coming out of Stanford a couple of years ago, being the quarterback's coach there. So he quickly rose to the top. And so when Coach Drink took this offensive coordinator position, it was an easy transition because he had already been the offensive coordinator under Brian Harsin at Arkansas State. And for Boise State fans, this is not unfamiliar territory that they're in. This is their sixth offensive coordinator in 7 years, starting out with their head coach right now, Harsin, and then Brent Pease, who jumped to Florida, Robert Prince for 2 years here, and then you go Mike Sanford and Notre Dame, and now you got Coach Drink going to NC State now. And I think it's just closer to home for him, and I think that's a comfort zone for him and his family. And so from a reasonable standpoint, he did a great job. I mean, just considering that he's only been coaching the offensive coordinator position at the collegiate level for a few years. One of those years being, a graduate assistant under Gus at Auburn. But you also had some, we have a spoiled fan base. We expect perfection ever since, the Kellen Moore years where, we're just putting up 50 points a game, and that's not the case anymore. And so, opinions varied when it came to Drink. But when he had some good play calls, I mean, he really could dial it up at times.
Were fans just generally disappointed when he took our job, or what was the general feeling there?
It's kind of same old, really. And I may catch some slack for this, but Boise State is a stepping stone type of school. They're not going to be going into a Power 5 conference anytime soon. And so when it happened, it's like, look, there was some people that, that want that perfection. They say, good, we don't want that guy there. But then you have other people that are, very positive and saying, like, look, Boise State is in a great spot because they get to send all these coaches to all these places, whether it's Florida or Washington, or even our Boise State's former coach, Dirk Cutter, who took the Tampa Bay job, today, reported by ESPN. So, it goes both ways. There's always going to be a couple knuckleheads, but, when you look at it, I mean, Boise State's offense was 15th in scoring and total offense on the season.
I think that's pretty remarkable for two reasons. One, I think Boise State, if I read the stats right, since the year 2000, they have the highest. They're basically dominating all the offensive stats, points per game, yards per game. Like, that's pretty consistent considering the turnover. I mean, that's really impressive for a program.
It really is, and it really starts at the culture that was set, all the way back from Lyle Smith up to Pokey Allen, to Houston Nutt, to Dirk Cutter, to Dan Hawkins, who even had a nice run here. Chris Peterson, obviously you guys probably know his whole story, and all the Fiesta Bowl victories. And then you got Brian Harsin, who is a Boise guy who graduated at Capitol High School here in Boise. And it's just been a continuity. Terminology is relatively the same around the program, but it is quite remarkable that Boise State has been within the FBS for 20 years now. And, I mean, it's just a winning tradition throughout those last 20 years.
Yeah, that's wild. And if you get any slack for being, or for the stepping stone comment, I mean, pretty sure everybody is, unless you're, maybe 10 schools. So, it's just different levels.
If you're not SEC, you're a stepping stone.
That is very true.
So you talked about the terminology kind of being the same, and I know there's been crazy turnover there year to year at the OC position. You talked about that. So from looking at this year, I mean, numbers were great across the board. Was that a thing was that him, or was it more the system he inherited and continued with? Like, how much of a role do you think he had in that, I guess is what I'm asking.
I think after him watching Mike Sanford run the offense last year, because Boise State's offense, the 2 seasons prior, before Sanford took that offensive coordinator position at Boise State, the offense was stale. I've never seen this fan base so angry at a offensive coordinator calling for his head, and that was Robert Prince that was here, and Sanford whipped that offense into shape and played by their strengths, and I think that was good for Drink to really see how Sanford ran things, and I do think it helped him. I just think that Drink is one of those guys that can be very good offensive coordinator someday, but like we said, he's 6 years removed from being a high school offensive coordinator, and I do think that he has a lot of responsibility in him with the success that we did have this season, as well as that we had a lot of good players come in, a lot of talent, from all over the place.
Well, so what kind of offense can we expect from Drinkwitz?
Yeah, I think it varies on where they are exactly on the field. They do a lot of power eye stuff around the red zone, close within the 10-yard, inside the 10-yard line. They do a lot of mixing and matching on the outside, whether they get their running back out in the flat. And the thing that I like about Drink's offense this year was the wide receivers were a huge asset in the blocking scheme to get around on the outside. And if you looked at the Virginia game, that was one of the games where I thought Drink had his best play calling, where he was using his strengths at the running back and quarterback position. And he also uses his tight ends. The thing that I would like to see him use a little more is play action within the red zone. But I think he's going to help your total offense, which NC State was ranked 57th among the country compared to Boise State's 15th in total offense. And so I do think that he can bring, a couple different, smash concepts or whatever the case may be. But I do think with acquiring Drink this year, NC State's offense is going to look much better than it has this year.
Would you say more pass heavy or run heavy or one or the other?
That's the thing with Drink that I didn't necessarily like, is that he was very pass happy. And there was a game against New Mexico where he actually had Brett Rippon throw about 75 passes in one game. Jesus.
Good gracious.
I mean, you're talking, you would think that Mike Leach was coaching this game, but so that's the thing with Drink, is that when the defense wasn't playing well for Boise State, he would rely on the passing game so much that there was no flow to the offense at all. And Boise State was just, letting it fly. Within those 3 last losses where Brett Rippon was the quarterback against Utah State, New Mexico, and Air Force, Brett Rippon had thrown 173 passes in 3 games. I mean, that's just way too high. You want to be, staying anywhere between 25 to 35 passes a game, and he's throwing 75, 50 passes, in those games. And so that's the knock that I have against Drink, is that he didn't really make the running game much a priority as we're used to here at Boise State. But if you like passing offenses, I think Drink is your guy right now.
Now, was that more of a situational thing? If it wasn't needed, did he still keep throwing the ball?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both, because the Boise State defense during those games wasn't helping at all. When you're facing a triple option, it's run, and then throw it over the top, and then Boise State's defense is caught. So I think what Drink was trying to do was forcing it a little bit, and with a freshman quarterback like Rippon, who's got a lot of talent, he figured that he would use him, but throwing the ball 75 times in one game, I mean, that's what quarterbacks maybe throw in 2 to 3 games, and he did that in one game. And so some of it is situational, but look, if you want any chance against these teams, you got to establish the run game, and especially, like a defense going up against Bud Foster Virginia Tech defense. You gotta establish the run game against those guys, because they'll just eat you alive, and you won't get your offense moving at all.
That's really surprising, because I think you even said too you had a first-year quarterback, and he'll have the same situation in Raleigh. We're losing our guy. We got a young one, Jalen McClendon, and I was wondering do you think, was it a pure talent standpoint from the quarterback, or did he set him up for success, I guess? If you say he threw 70 times a game, that doesn't seem like it, but how much of his success was pure talent versus coaching?
Yeah, well, Brett Rippon is the nephew of Mark Rippon, who is a former Super Bowl champion for the Washington Redskins. So he's got a bloodline of good family genes in there.
He was an MVP of the Super Bowl, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. And so I know that those two talk on and off throughout the season, make sure that they're, that he's bouncing ideas of Mark. But from what I saw Rippon grow throughout the season, just feeling more comfortable in the pocket. But you could tell that he has a command within the offense. I do think that Drink knows what he's doing. He's just young, and I think that once he steps onto NC State's campus, I think he's going to be more than fine. He's going to have to develop these freshman quarterbacks. The guy that's coming in is a freshman, correct? That's going to be the starter for NC State.
He's what, a redshirt
sophomore.
Yeah,
redshirt sophomore. Okay,
so he's been there. He just hasn't. I think he had 14 snaps last season,
something like that. Yeah,
right. And so right in Brett Rippon's first start against Virginia, I could not believe how prepared he was for an 18-year-old freshman. And that was, a tribute to Drinkwitz and just his coaching and getting him prepared, because an 18-year-old going to a Power 5 conference, clear across country, granted it was Virginia, but that's a tough environment to be in, playing on the Eastern time zone and, flying for 5 hours across the country just to play in a game. And Virginia had some talent on defense, and Rippon was more than ready to take the snaps in that game. Tribute to Coach Drink.
I think that's probably what stood out to Coach Dorn as well, because Virginia does have some talent. Mike London recruited really well there, given that they were been horrible for the last few years. So the fact that Boise State could go there and win with a freshman quarterback in his first start, it's pretty phenomenal.
It's a huge win too. It wasn't even close.
No, it wasn't close. It was right from the very first drive for Virginia. Boise State gets a pick six, and then you got Rippon, where it's raining, humid out there, and he just went to work out there like he was a veteran quarterback. And so, like I said, that's Coach Drink, and that's Rippon doing their work to get prepared for that game.
I jumped all over that spread. Remember that, Evan? I texted you, and I'm like, this is a lock.
I think that's part of, what we're looking for as a fan base as well. Jacoby, our quarterback this past year, didn't really develop to the level that some people thought he was going to, from his junior year to his senior year. I think people expected a little bit more, basically coaching. And so I think that's part of the reason there was a change, and I think it's part of the reason they bring in a young guy who can do that with a young quarterback. So I think that's, it's kind of a good fit for us there.
Evan, I think you like him because he wears visors like you.
I mean, naturally he's got good style.
Well, when Drink was good at play calling, I mean, he was really, really good, and he was effective. I could think back to the Hawaii game where Boise State had, a really balanced attack of, I think it was 500 plus total yards in the game, and it was 250 passing and 250 rushing, and ideally that's where you want to be as an offensive coordinator. There was, like I said, Virginia, Hawaii, Northern Illinois, those 3 games stick out in my mind. When Drink was good, I mean, he was clicking on all cylinders.
I think that's good to hear for us. A big problem we've had, I think, this year was our red zone offense. And you previously mentioned it. He runs a lot of smash sets and big sets. Is that his go-to in the red zone?
The good thing about Drink, from what I saw this past season, is that he mixes it up quite a bit. With those smash concepts, which usually you can go within the red zone or a little outside of the red zone using that. What Dustin had tweeted out was a specific play for a tight end screen, which is one of my favorite plays I've ever seen Boise State run. The thing about Drink is that he's very innovative, like Sanford was the year prior. So he does a lot of mixing and matching on the outside as well as using the tight ends. And he has run sets very similar to Stanford-like power sets close to the goal line. And that's always fun for me because I'm kind of an old school smash mouth type football type guy, seeing that. And so, but when you come down to total offenses, Boise State was ranked 69th compared to NC State's 54. And so there's a little bit of a difference right there where Boise State was a lot of innovation and trick plays around the red zone as well. And Boise State scored 56 times in the red zone where, NC State struggled with 46 times in the red zone. So, you could look at those rankings and make the case for both teams. But, I think Boise State is just one of those teams where you look at their offense and think, that's innovative. And he definitely brings that to NC State.
I'm not sure if I should point this out to our listeners, but you know more about our stats than we do. So that's pretty impressive. But a lot of spread teams like to run the end zone fade, which drives me crazy. I know, like Lincoln Riley at Oklahoma is notorious for it. But were there any consistent calls or play calls from Drink that you guys are like, oh, not this stupid play again?
Not all that much. There was maybe a couple times where he'd run up at the middle and, they'd be stopped consistently, and it seemed like they were running the same play over and over again. But that didn't happen consistently. He seemed to mix it up a little bit. And, when they didn't get in the end zone, it wasn't because they're running the same play to the right side, just trying to, muscle their way through. I felt like he did a good job with mixing it up quite a bit. And they would bring in a mobile quarterback, actually, because Brett Rippon's not all that mobile. They would bring in a guy called Tommy Stewart. They call him Tommy Football around here. No relation to Johnny Football. But they would, do a little option read and see if they could get the mobile quarterback in there.
So if I were to say Wildcat formation, what would you say?
I'd say that we definitely ran that this year with Drink more than once.
We ran that ad nauseum, and it never worked.
Well, I will say this: it was so. There was a running back by the name of Jay Jai here 2 seasons ago, or 1 season ago, excuse me. Now playing for the Miami Dolphins, and when you have a big running back that has a lot of power, it's very effective. But if you got a little guy running behind there, it's not as effective. And it wasn't as effective this year. But we're not running into the ACC defensive line, like you guys are every game.
Right. We ran the Wildcat and jet sweeps, I don't know, probably 100 times a game, and none of them worked, or not very well. So it was very frustrating for us.
Yeah, we didn't. Boise State didn't do a whole lot of jet sweeps to the outside, but they did do some Wildcat. He did like to give it to a lot of his playmakers. A little guy named Shane Williams Rhodes, try to get him out in the flat, see what he could do. But there was not a whole lot of jet sweeps. I think jet sweeps are pretty much sniffed out in college football these days.
Yeah, I agree. I think one of the plays that we're most excited about is the one Dustin sent out, the tight end screen. We have a guy who's kind of a hybrid, doesn't really have a position, Jalen Samuels. They call him a tight end, but he just scores every time he gets the ball. It's absurd. And I think they're just going to run that play for him, and it's going to be fantastic.
He's about the only one that showed up for the Mississippi State game.
Yeah.
It's not even anything we had discussed talking about, but is he good at using the good personnel he has? Because we had a actual tight end, Greenwich, this year, and he was good enough that he's leaving early to enter the draft, but we didn't use him at all. I mean, a couple of times. That was it, a few games. So will he take advantage of the best talent he has?
He tries to get his best players the ball. From what I saw, we have a running back named Jeremy McNichols, who's arguably the best talent that's on the team right now. And he would get him the ball as much as possible, and he'd bust out some big runs or, have a little short screen pass, and he'd take it the distance. He wants to get those playmakers involved. And so if it happens to be a tight end, it's gonna happen. I think Boise State probably used 4 to 6 tight ends who all caught the ball this year, and that's really a trademark for the Boise State football program, is using those tight ends. Whether it's for a 2-yard pass or it's for a 20-yard pass at the middle, that is something that Boise State fans love, is using their tight ends. I don't know what it is, but ever since early 2000s, it's look, we got to get those tight ends involved, and so. I think you're in good hands when you're talking about getting the ball into the right person's hands, whether it's a tight end or a running back or whoever the case may be.
Well, we don't want to keep you long. Just on the last thing, we've heard that he's a really good recruiter. So is it as good as we think? And are there some key guys that he landed, kind of thing?
Yeah, he actually helped Mike Sanford recruit our freshman quarterback, or soon-to-be sophomore quarterback, Brett Rippon, getting him over to Boise State rather than Washington State, where his uncle played, which many thought that he was going to choose Washington State, but Boise State ended up being the spot for him. And Kellen Moore was a guy that he looked up to, and actually their stats are very similar, where Rippon threw 3,353 yards on 20 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. And then you had Kellen, who threw 25 touchdowns and 10 interceptions with 3,486 yards. And so he's trying to chase after Kellen right now. And so when you look at the recruiting for Drink, he did a great job recruiting Rippon to Boise and luring him away from, possibly Washington State. But then he's also going down to the south, where he recruited a running back from Arkansas with the last name Crockett, who's going to be a big-time running back for Boise State for years to come. And so he knows how to pick talent, and he knows that area where he's going right now. And I think genuinely all the kids like the guy. I mean, he seems like a very nice guy, and I think he knows what he's talking about. And I think the thing that he likes to develop is just relationships with these kids, and they seem to really enjoy being around him and picking his brain when it comes to football.
I read that he was really strong in the South, and I believe there was a defensive end, maybe a running back that he recruited to Boise State that I think Boise State fans were worried about them flipping and following him to NC State. So I think that's pretty interesting.
Oh, yeah, that may have been Crockett. I know Crockett had been talking to Arkansas as well too, but he's pretty set with Boise State right now. But he definitely has an eye for recruiting, and he's definitely a likable guy.
Well, if it helps Boise State fans, I don't think we're actually recruiting a running back at the moment. So that's probably a pretty good sign. But the defensive end, I think it's a high priority for us. So I don't remember the name. But...
John Tate.
Oh yeah, that might have been it.
John Tate. Yeah, he's making his official visit this week with Crockett and Michael Wilson from Tulsa, actually. So Boise State's got a good chance to land John Tate as well.
I mean, that's impressive getting guys out of the Deep South to come all the way up to Idaho. I mean, it's got to be a good sign of the recruiter.
It's quite the trip, but it's either you go to a Power 5 school and you sit, or you come to Boise, Idaho, and you play. So that's many times that's the case. But Boise State has had quite a few Florida players come up, and as well as all over the South, really.
Well, Drew, we appreciate your time. I'm going to implore our listeners again to go check out Bronco News Nation. We'll tweet out some links to it because the content there is strong, and it's something that I wish more NC State bloggers would do, kind of break it down a little bit. But we're not there yet as a fan base, but I'm impressed that you do it, and I think you guys do a really good job at it. So I hope our fans go and read up on it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it, and good luck next year.
Thanks, Drew. We'll be right back. We're going to take a little break for our sponsor, and then Dustin's going to talk all about basketball.
If there's one thing State fans do well, it's tailgate. And I know for me, the most important part of a tailgate is a well-packed cooler. You have to ask yourself two questions. How clean is your cooler, and how cold are your drinks? Nobody wants to reach into a dirty cooler and grab a warm beer. Now, I've put rock salt in my coolers for years to try and chill beverages a little bit quicker, but a lot of times I'll either use too little or too much, and I'll have a can filled with slush. I'm also guilty of being a little bit lazy when it comes to cleaning the cooler after I'm finished with it. Then I found Frostbite Cooler Salt. This isn't just salt, it's salt combined with safe and organic ingredients that clean your cooler while it's getting your beer super cold. The really cool part is that it doesn't just clean your cooler, but it cleans everything that goes into it. So when you pull that beer out, it's not just going to be super cold, but the can itself is actually going to be germ-free. And it comes conveniently packaged with the perfect amount to sprinkle over 20 pounds of ice. You can find it in a growing number of stores in the Raleigh area, as well as online if you're outside the Triangle. So check out coolersalt.com, that's COOLER salt.com, to find the closest location to you and see how you can have a clean and cold cooler every time. Frostbite Cooler Salt. Colder, faster, cleaner. Alright guys, welcome back, and now it's time to talk about basketball. Should I put a little sad trombone sound in?
If you can, please do.
Alright, so we're 0-4 in the conference, and the last time that happened, Les Robinson was the coach, and that's been a while, so that's great, right?
Les Robinson years were the bane of my existence. The Thursday ACC tournament game, which is dubbed the Les Robinson Invitational. Yeah. Oh, painful.
So Tuesday now, right?
Yeah, so it'll be a Tuesday Invitational. Yeah. I mean, you got to imagine this team would be better. Better. I don't even know how to describe it. Be better than they are, and maybe meet some of the expectations. Trevor Lacey left. Kyle Washington transferred. Terry Henderson gets hurt. I mean, that's a bad run. But it's just frustrating. And I know I'm not the only one. I know other State fans are frustrated. I don't know. I got nothing.
Yeah, I've tried to stay positive, and I've made comments on Twitter about people just acting like it's the end of the world,
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that. I mean, we're coming off 4 consecutive tournaments, but people are getting their pitchforks out. I mean, is that reasonable?
I don't think it's unreasonable, and here's why. And I tweeted this out after the game. I'm just disappointed, right? I feel like the program should be in better shape that you can withstand some of these things. You know, you can withstand a guy leaving early, or you can withstand a guy getting hurt. But like our best players are on the end of the bench in street clothes, you know, and it's painful. We don't have a lot of guys. We have a lot of role players and no guys that can take over. Cat's getting double teamed. You know, coaches are getting smart. I wrote this in our notes. I think that all of the coaches now are. You saw with Wake Forest, they would just double team Cat at the top of the key and then force somebody else to score. Caleb Barton's shooting like 3%. I think he had 4 air balls last night.
Did he make a shot last night?
He made one at the end of the game. Yeah. But it's just, you know, to me, that's the frustration part. That's the frustrating part. I'm disappointed. And so I understand why people are kind of getting their pitchforks out. I don't know. It's just disappointing. I guess the point I'm really most disappointed in is the effort, right? Injuries happen, transfers happen, guys going pro happen, you know, but when they don't seem to have the defensive effort to make up for the lack of talent on the offensive side, that's frustrating. And I think that's why the PNC is half full. I mean, last night there was nobody there. It was not a good look.
I feel like the defensive intensity would show up a little more if some of the shots were falling. I mean, so mentally disheartening.
I guess. And I like Maverick. I think he's going to be a very good player. He's, 17 or 18 at this point. And so his shots are going to fall. He's kind of figuring it out. But we don't really hustle until like the last 3 minutes when we're down 10. You're like, come on. Like, let's get that. I don't know. I don't know what it is. It's just disappointing. I mean, how do you feel?
I don't know. The thing is, I'm still very adamant that people don't have a right to just, say walk the plank kind of thing. Like I said, we are coming off 4 tournaments. So is a coach entitled to a bad year at some point? Carolina made the NIT, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, maybe something like that. And it happens. So we came into this season with enough confidence to extend his contract. And now, there's a big chunk of people that want him fired. And that's crazy. And the whole season, I've said everybody needs to chill. He deserves a bad year. And the people that want him fired are crazy. So here's the bombshell. Call me crazy. It's time to make a move.
So you're saying we need to fire Mark Gottfried?
In a way. It's weird. It's complicated.
It's not you, it's me.
Say what?
I said it's not you, it's me, right?
I don't feel that there's any justification for it at all. I think he deserves, hey, if we win 2 more games this year, fine. He comes back next year. If he has a bad year next year with, Smith coming in, then we got problems. But where the fan base is and the Archie situation, people want Archie, and it's not just fans. There's some important people that would prefer to see him there. And I think this is going to be the only bad year for probably 4 or 5 more if it shows back up again. So if people want to change, if the administration, it's saying, well, we'd like to have Archie, and that's fact, then this is the year that there's an excuse to make the change. Is it dirty? Right. Yeah. Does he deserve it? No. But do you have to not care about feelings or perception to have success? Maybe so.
Firing Mark Gottfried. You heard it here, folks. Dustin wants him out.
No, and that's the thing. He doesn't deserve it at all, but it's going to be constant. If Archie takes a P5 job somewhere else, and then we ever did need to make a change and he's got something established there and doesn't leave, how's it going to look,
it does feel like the stars are aligning for State to get a guy who's a State grad, got coaching in his blood. He's doing excellent things at a smaller school. Just the things are lining up for it, right? But then Godfrey's extended through 2020 or whatever the contract is, I think. I mean, that's some NC State shit for the most part. It's like the guy you want is right there, but the guy you have is good enough.
See, that's the thing. It's always going to be good enough to make it seem awful to make the change. And this year is the chance if they want to take it.
So is Archie's ceiling higher than Godfrey's?
I mean, he's had Dayton ranked this year.
Are they ranked? Holy cow.
They were. I think they lost the game after that.
Okay.
But they did get to the top 25. How far did they go in the tournament a year or two ago? Elite 8, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
When did we go to the Elite 8?
Yeah.
With the talent they have and the talent we have.
So that's part of my frustration. Like I said, I was disappointed when you have programs like Miami and Virginia Tech. Look at Virginia Tech this year. What a turnaround that program's doing. Clemson just beat Duke.
Buzz is great though.
Yeah,
I mean, you knew that when he showed up that they were going to be a problem.
Yeah, and Wake Forest is getting better. I mean, they've won some games this year. It just so my level of disappointment is that it's a rebuilding year, yes, but we're rebuilding from Godfrey's middle of the pack. It's not like he was ever in the top half of the league or top 3 in the league, and he's rebuilding and he's in the middle. Now we're going from 8 to 12, and now we're trying to rebuild back to 8. And I get he's made some tournaments and made some runs, but it's always late season runs, and I guess that's what matters. But the program, I think, should be in a better position to withstand some of these things. And I guess it comes back to missing on Seth Allen and Devontae Graham and a couple other recruits because you got to aim big. But I don't know. I mean, I'm with you. Like, I'm not saying I want to fire him, but I understand it. It's just frustrating.
See, that's my thing. I don't want people to think I'm saying firing the guy. I'm saying that if they're going to make a change and it's already a thought, then this is your chance. Don't put it off because next year we will be better. And then chances are after that we'll be fine too. I mean, we can expect what we've had the past few years on a regular basis, and we don't know when we'll have another bad year to have that, kindling to start the fire.
I think for me, and I've seen other people have tweeted at us and commented on things that we've done with Godfrey. He's going to get in the tournament, right? Maybe not this year, but every other year it's pretty much he's going to win his way in the end. He's going to win some key games. He's going to slip into the tournament. It's what he does. They're going to, play strong, win a couple games, make a Sweet 16. But to me, the development, like Anya hasn't developed any kind of offensive game. Leonard is just Leonard. Abu's hit or miss. And the free throw shooting across the board is horrible. So the guys don't seem to be developing. And well, look, basketball is not at all my expertise, but it's just an outsider's view. And I think other people agree with me that the program hasn't grown with our players. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it does. And I think he can coach up guards really well.
Yeah.
But bigs, like you said, it's just not showing up. And I remember, I think it was like the introductory press conference when he showed up that, we're going to build NC State basketball back to what it was. Well, okay, this is his 5th year, right?
Yep.
How long does that take? Because what's the highest he's finished in conference?
Good question. I can
not
look up.
Top 3. I mean, that's...
Yeah, I don't think so.
So we've not been top 3, and now we've taken a huge step back this year. So did he swing and miss? I mean, is NC State basketball now middle of the road? I guess that's my thing. I mean, we haven't been relevant in, 30 years?
Oh, God.
So is it wrong of us to expect? And even in 83, they weren't supposed to win it, So is there a mistaken perception on what NC State basketball is?
That's tough. I always think that NC State fans they do have some perception issues. I think it revolves around football. We've never done anything in football, but people are expecting an instant change, right? They're expecting to be a Wisconsin or a Clemson or one of these other schools. But I think that takes longer. For basketball, we've got 2 national titles, and I know it was a long ass time ago. But I think the history is there, and the passion, and the all this other stuff. I think it's there. I don't think the expectations are out of line with basketball.
Are we ever going to achieve what we want with the 2 coaches down the road, though? Are they going to have to retire before? I mean, we're going to have a coach, like a hell of a coach, to come out on top. Is Gottfried that guy?
I don't know. That's my thing. Like, I'm looking at the stats, and it doesn't look like we finished higher than 5th in the league. His best conference year was, and that was his first year. We were 9-7 and finished 5th. But his best conference record was 11-7 in 2012-2013.
So that was what the last year with Lorenzo and Richard Howell, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
9-9, 2013. 10-8 with TJ Warren. Oh, that was Trevor Lacey.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
I just feel like it's always a year away.
Yes, and that's the perpetual NC State mantra.
Because, look at last year. Okay, great. But if we had TJ Warren with Trevor Lacey.
Right. If we had Mario Williams with Phillip Rivers, right? We've been saying it forever.
And that's the thing, from the basketball side, yeah, it sucks when those players leave early and don't line up. But if you look, 20 miles down the road, those programs withstand it. And they've got somebody to step in and fill those shoes.
Right.
There's still top 25 schools every year. So what are they doing that we're not doing that they can handle somebody leaving early? Plus, Tar Heels don't leave early a lot.
You're right. You don't see that very often.
Blue Devils don't leave early a lot. But here, every time a guy has a good year, he wants to leave and get paid.
Right.
So what do we have to do to get 4 years out of a guy that's going to go play in the NBA? What are they doing that we're not to get them to stay? It's more than coaching. There's program development and building and maintenance. Program maintenance. It's like keeping up with a house.
Yeah.
What is going on that we can't have that?
I think for me, another frustrating part is Miami and Virginia have both won ACC titles since Gottfried's been here.
Yeah.
Right. Are we? And I think it comes back to our expectations. The question you just asked. Should we expect it to be like Miami and Virginia and win an ACC title? I mean, what are those programs doing that we're not doing other than playing defense?
Right. I don't know, man. I'm starting to think that. I mean, Pitt's won national titles in football, but they're not a football school now, are they?
Yeah.
And I don't know. We haven't won a title since I was born. So.
Oh God.
I mean, that is to NC State basketball to me is not national championships. I mean, I love looking back on it.
Right. I
keep Surviving Advance in my Netflix list. I started to watch it last night when I was really depressed, but I don't know that state basketball is what we want it to believe it is. And if it's going to get to that point, I don't know that we have the steps or the things in place to make that happen right now.
Yeah, I don't think we have it in place. I'll agree with you there. I do think that we should be one of the better programs consistently. I believe in football we're not there. We've never been there, so it's going to take a long time and whatever. But in basketball, I feel like we should be there.
Yeah.
And we're not, and it pushes me to my limits every time when we're like, oh, we're so close, and then it's just a rebuilding year. But rebuilding from what? A sixth best place and sixth best in the conference finish?
Yeah. It's easy to look at it as rebuilding when you've won something.
Right.
or been up there close to winning it. And if you're rebuilding from a bubble team that made it to the Sweet 16, I don't know.
So here's my question for you: if we had a different coach with these players, could he get more out of them? So say it was Archie with the same team.
I don't know. The problem that we've got now is this, shots have to fall for the infamous UCLA offense.
Yes.
And if the shots aren't falling, you've got to do something else, and we're not changing anything. And our post players look lost sometimes.
Yeah.
And there's the most important part of that offense. So if they have no clue or just can't run it, then it's a couple problems. One, you're not changing or adapting the system to suit your personnel. And two, you misjudged and brought guys in that aren't built for that system. So there's two fundamental differences. Something's got to change there.
I think that's kind of it, right? He brings in Leonard, and everybody loves Leonard. He hustles, plays hard, whatever, but he wasn't a highly recruited guy. He's undersized. He brings in Sean Kirk, who maybe had an offer from Kansas. Nobody really knows if that was legit or not.
I thought it was Kentucky.
Or Kentucky, whoever it was. Nobody really knows if that was legit or if that was just to get Dennis Smith. But he brings in this, these two guys who are just, they don't look like they're ready to contribute. Or like Kirk doesn't this year, and Leonard's taken a little while, but he still hasn't grown into an offensive threat, or he's a role player, right? And now the Martin twins, who I love, they hustle, even though they don't shoot very well consistently. They play hard, but they're more role players than they are scorers.
Right.
And so either Godfrey's recruiting has let him down, or his talent evaluation, or he's just not getting the most out of them. And I think that's kind of where you're sitting with, like, I like him because he gets to the tournament, but something's missing, right? It doesn't feel right.
See, this is kind of, too, where I go back to what is NC State basketball. Right. And let's imagine how different it would be if he beats out Coach K for Ingram last year, and we know we had Bam coming in and didn't lose him to Kentucky. What would our perception be right now?
I think it's different. Yeah, it's a completely different case. So he get it. He swung at some big guys and he missed.
Is he spending too much time on the big guys?
I mean, I guess you would say that if you don't get him. But you get one of those guys, and that's we're at a different program right now because you have another guy who can score. So, I don't know. I don't think, who's Jim Larinaga recruiting at Miami, because he's getting it done. Who's Tony Bennett recruiting at Virginia, because he's getting it done.
Well, Tony Bennett recruits guys that can slap someone and not get a foul call.
That's true.
So that's Virginia defense, though. So
yeah.
I don't know. There's something. I think this is gut check. You've got to evaluate every aspect of the program right now.
I can agree with that. I don't think that's unreasonable. And to be honest, if they do fire him, everybody's just going to say, "Oh, they're crazy. He went to 4 straight NCAA tournaments." But I'm over caring what the outsiders think.
Yeah,
I just want to win.
Yeah.
If we have to start paying people like Kentucky's doing, then hey, let's start paying kids. I don't give a damn. Let's do something. Obviously, nobody's getting in trouble.
I don't know. I don't think any coach deserves to be fired because of one bad year. But there's barking, and there's a lot of people that want to change, and this might be the only. I mean, this isn't even a good reason, but it might be the only thing where you can point at numbers and have an explanation.
Yeah, I think you're right. And if people felt like Godfrey was getting the most out of this team, and they were playing hard and doing this, and they just didn't have it because guys got hurt and whatever, then you can get a pass, right? We wouldn't be having this conversation.
Right.
But it doesn't look like they're playing hard. He's adjusting at all. Something is just not working. And I think that's why why this is all bubbling up, because you can see it. We can watch the games and see, teams that are better coached than us or better, playing harder than us.
I think the one that hurts still the most is that VT game.
Up 16?
Yeah.
I mean,
and lose to freshmen, basically.
Yes.
And that's, I get that we've got one scorer, but how many guys do they have that are scorers?
Yeah.
And they're young, and they were able to come back, and we've got guys that they might not be just dropping buckets like crazy, but we've got sophomores and juniors, and they should be able to hit some free throws to win a game. When they know that the game is relying on free throws, they should be able to hit them. And I don't know. I think that goes back to what you were saying, that if we could see that he was getting everything out of him that he could, then he would get a pass.
Right.
And it's hard. I've tried to stick up for him, and I still think, shit happens once in a while, but this is the time if it's going to happen, because we'll be better next year. But what is better, and is it ever going to be good enough?
That's the key question. What is better, and what's the ceiling?
Yeah,
I think you're exactly right. I don't think you're out of line at all. If you can take a reasonable approach to this and end up on the side of the fence that says, "Hey, I think it's time to make a change. This is not what we want. We want something else, right? We don't want fifth in the league. We want a higher ceiling."
And if you get the family guy, fifth in the league is a lot easier to deal with.
Yeah.
If you got a guy that comes from within the program, that helps with that. So, and I don't know. I look at Dayton and I see him getting a lot out of players that don't have the talent that our guys do.
Yeah, I think if we miss on Archie Miller, I don't think we'll miss on him. I'll put that out there. If he goes anywhere, I think we can still get him. It's just going to get more and more expensive to get him. I think coaching is in his blood. It's in his brother's blood. His dad was a coach. It's what they're good at. And he's good at it. I think he's genuinely good at it. And this is the chance for us to to make our mark and to get the piece that actually fits, right? I don't know. It sounds weird, but I'm with you. You've convinced me.
And I guess, I don't know. I lost my train of thought there. It's frustrating. There's no good way. If there's no change, then you look at it and say, okay, well, we're going to be mediocre. If you make a change, well, we fired a guy that got us consecutive tournaments every year except for one. So it's a bad situation to be in. Most 4 straight tournament teams don't take a drop like this unless something crazy happened, like that coach left and went somewhere else kind of thing.
Yeah.
This is a big drop off. They lost.
They do. I left that game last night, and I was texting you. I'm just frustrated. It was just, why am I going to go out of my way to go to one of these games when they're going to play like that? Get beat at home by FSU, and and weren't really competitive.
Yeah, and see, I don't want to blame the players. That's the thing. Something's going on that's not getting anything out of them, and I don't think it's them, because we saw stuff out of them last year.
Right.
So I don't know. There's a problem. There's a problem.
Yeah, I think that's it. If you can feel like you can get more out of the players, then you got to make that change. Anyway, we have Carolina coming up this weekend. I'm trying to find the line on that right now. Give us your thoughts on that game.
Yeah. We'll try and get a podcast out next week. It'll be late next week. And that's if Evan and I make it back from New Orleans alive. So
that's a big if.
Yeah. Things might happen. So if this is it, then we enjoyed y'all.
It's been real, guys.
Yeah. But I want to quit fussing now. Just to end it, I don't think any coaching change happens.
I don't think so either.
Yeah, it's too hard to justify. So, you got anything else?
Over under. Carolina beats us by 15.
I think we might beat Carolina.
You're drunk.
No. I said we beat them in Chapel Hill last year, and it worked out. It would be the most state thing ever to drop 4 games that you should have won and then go win there.
If we beat them, we have to re-record this, and you can apologize to everybody.
We'll see. No, we won't win, but I don't... If it's close, we win. If it's not close, I will take the over on the 15.
Yeah, I agree.
It could be... I don't know. I don't think they're as good as everyone's making them out to be, but...
But we're awful.
Well, the thing is, though, we have some talent, so I feel like a lot of games we just haven't gotten up for. We never have problems getting up for this game.
That's true.
So,
That's true.
If they're going to pull one out of their ass, this will be it.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. All right. I'm done.
Yeah, that's it. Go Pack.
Yeah, go Packs.
Thanks for listening.